I'm Abigail, and I thought I'd share my roller coaster of a story with you all. It all started a few months ago when I landed a job at a fancy office downtown. I was ecstatic, to say the least. Finally, my dreams of working in a professional environment were coming true. On my first day, I nervously walked through the polished glass doors of the office building. The grandeur of the place left me in awe. I took a deep breath, trying to calm my racing heart, and approached the front desk. "Hi there, I'm Abigail. I'm here for my first day," I said, trying to sound confident. The receptionist smiled warmly and replied, "Welcome, Abigail. We've been expecting you. I'm Lisa, by the way. Let me give you a quick tour and introduce you to your new colleagues." Lisa guided me through the office, pointing out different departments and explaining the company's operations. The office was bustling with activity, and I couldn't help but feel a sense of excitement as I imagined myself fitting into this professional world. After the tour, Lisa led me to my department. As we walked in, I could feel the curious gazes of my soon-to-be coworkers upon me. Lisa introduced me to the team, starting with Sarah, a friendly woman with a warm smile. "Hey there, Abigail. Welcome to the team. We're glad to have you on board," Sarah said, extending her hand. "Thank you, Sarah. I'm really excited to be here," I replied, relieved to find such a welcoming colleague. Soon, I met the rest of the team. There was Michael, a witty and knowledgeable guy, always ready with a clever joke to lighten the mood. Emily, the team's expert in data analysis, impressed me with her intelligence and dedication. And finally, there was Alex, a seasoned professional who seemed reserved but approachable. As the day progressed, my new colleagues went out of their way to make me feel comfortable. They shared tips and tricks, helping me navigate the company's systems and procedures. It was evident that they genuinely cared about my success. During lunch break, we all gathered in the office cafeteria. As we sat together, munching on our sandwiches, the conversation flowed freely. "So, Abigail, what made you choose this company?" Michael asked, his eyes sparkling with curiosity. "Well, I've always been fascinated by the industry, and this company has such a great reputation for innovation and growth. I knew it would be the perfect place to kickstart my career," I replied, grateful for the chance to share my aspirations. "That's awesome! You'll fit right in. We're a tight-knit team here, always supporting each other," Emily chimed in, offering me a warm smile. Throughout the day, my coworkers continued to extend their support. They patiently answered my questions, shared their experiences, and made me feel like a valued member of the team. It was a refreshing change from the competitive and cutthroat environments I had heard about in other offices. As I left the office that evening, my heart was filled with hope. I knew challenges would come my way, but surrounded by such friendly and supportive colleagues, I felt ready to tackle anything. From the moment I stepped foot into the office, Mr. Thompson made it abundantly clear that he had little regard for my presence. His stern gaze and critical comments were a constant reminder that I could never quite meet his impossibly high standards. One morning, as I settled into my desk, diligently working on a project, Mr. Thompson suddenly appeared behind me. His voice dripped with condescension as he pointed out an inconsequential formatting error. "Abigail, do you even pay attention to the details? This is unacceptable. Fix it immediately," he scolded, his tone laced with disdain. I nodded, my confidence crumbling under his constant barrage of criticism. It seemed that no matter how hard I worked or how much effort I put into my tasks, it was never enough for him. The worst part was the silence from my colleagues. They witnessed Mr. Thompson's harsh treatment but chose to remain silent spectators. Perhaps they were fearful of facing his wrath themselves, or simply didn't want to get involved. Regardless, their silence left me feeling isolated and unsupported. One afternoon, as I sat at my desk, engrossed in a project, Mr. Thompson stormed into the office, his face red with anger. His eyes locked onto mine, and I knew trouble was brewing. "Abigail, how many times do I have to tell you? Pay attention to the details. This report is riddled with mistakes. You're an embarrassment," he bellowed, his voice echoing through the otherwise silent room. My heart sank, and a wave of frustration washed over me. I knew I had put in my best effort, yet it was met with relentless criticism. Feeling defeated, I gathered the strength to reply, "I apologize, Mr. Thompson. I'll make sure to double-check everything from now on." He scoffed dismissively, clearly unimpressed by my response. With a disdainful look, he ordered me to his office, where he planned to further berate me for my perceived incompetence. As we entered his office, he locked the door behind us, trapping me inside with his toxic presence. The room suddenly felt suffocating, and I braced myself for what was to come. "You need to learn your place, Abigail. I'm not here to hold your hand or coddle you. You have to work twice as hard to prove your worth," he sneered, his words dripping with malice. His proximity and the intensity of the situation sent shivers down my spine. I felt a surge of panic, but I refused to let him break me. In a moment of bravery, I mustered the courage to speak up. "Mr. Thompson, this is not how a boss should treat their employees. I deserve respect, and I won't tolerate this kind of behavior." His face twisted into a cruel smile. "Oh, really? And what are you going to do about it? No one will believe you." As he moved closer, invading my personal space, I knew I had to escape. Summoning all my strength, I pushed him away and sprinted towards the door. I burst out of his office, feeling a mix of fear and adrenaline pumping through my veins. That was the breaking point, Reddit. It was clear that I had to take matters into my own hands. No one should have to endure such treatment in the workplace. And so, a fire ignited within me, fueling my determination to seek justice and put an end to Mr. Thompson's reign of terror. As the days went by, it became apparent that my coworkers, who had initially welcomed me with open arms, had fallen into a pattern of silence. They watched silently as Mr. Thompson berated me, scolded me for trivial mistakes, and crushed my self-esteem. One afternoon, after another confrontation with Mr. Thompson, I found solace in the quiet corner of the office. Emily, sensing my distress, cautiously approached me. "Abigail, are you okay?" "I can see that Mr. Thompson's behavior is taking a toll on you," she said softly, concern etched on her face. I sighed, feeling the weight of my frustration and disappointment. It's disheartening that nobody speaks up. We're supposed to be a team, but when I face his wrath, it feels like I'm all alone." Emily's expression turned sympathetic, her voice filled with understanding. "I know it seems that way, Abigail, but people might have their reasons for not speaking up. Fear, insecurity, or perhaps they simply don't know how to handle the situation." Her words struck a chord within me. I realized that the silence of my colleagues might be more complicated than it appeared on the surface. Still, I couldn't help but yearn for their support during these trying times. The following day, during lunch break, I gathered the courage to address the elephant in the room. Seated around the table, I looked at my colleagues and took a deep breath. "Guys, I need to talk to you about something important. It's about the way Mr. Thompson treats me and how it makes me feel. I understand that it's a difficult situation, but I hoped I could count on your support," I began, my voice quivering with vulnerability. Sarah, ever empathetic, reached out and placed a comforting hand on mine. "Abigail, we're so sorry for not speaking up earlier. You're right, no one should have to endure such treatment. We should have been there for you, and we apologize for our silence." Michael, with a solemn expression, chimed in, "Abigail, I want you to know that we value you as a colleague and friend. We may have been silent, but it doesn't mean we condone Mr. Thompson's behavior. We just didn't know how to handle it." I nodded, appreciating their honesty and willingness to address the issue. "Thank you, both of you. It means a lot to hear that. I think it's important for us to stand up against such mistreatment and create a safe and respectful work environment." Emily spoke up, her voice firm with determination. "You're absolutely right, Abigail. We can't let this continue. Let's brainstorm some ideas on how to confront this situation and support you." Together, we spent the lunch break discussing strategies to address the issue. We considered documenting instances of Mr. Thompson's abusive behavior, seeking guidance from human resources, and exploring options for external support. The conversation marked a turning point. It was a collective realization that we had the power to challenge the status quo and make a difference. Although it was daunting, I felt a renewed sense of hope knowing that my colleagues were now willing to take a stand against Mr. Thompson's misconduct. In the upcoming chapters, Reddit, I'll share how we put our plans into action and the ripple effects it had on our workplace dynamics. It's a story of unity and the strength that emerges when we choose to break the silence. The tension in the office had reached its peak. Mr. Thompson's relentless belittlement and abuse had taken a toll on my mental well-being, but I was no longer willing to endure it in silence. With the support of my colleagues, we devised a plan to gather evidence and bring Mr. Thompson's misconduct to light. One fateful day, as I walked down the office corridor with a folder of crucial documents in my hands, I felt a sudden jolt on my shoulder. Before I could react, I stumbled, losing my grip on the folder. The papers scattered across the floor, a scene of chaos and disarray. I looked up, and there he was, Mr. Thompson, wearing a malicious smirk. He wasted no time in seizing the opportunity to berate me once again. "Abigail, look at what you've done! You can't even handle a simple task properly," he sneered, his tone dripping with contempt. I clenched my fists, my anger mixing with a determination to no longer be a victim. As I gathered the fallen documents, I locked eyes with my colleagues who watched the scene unfold from a distance. This was the breaking point. I mustered every ounce of courage within me and met Mr. Thompson's gaze. "You know what, Mr. Thompson? This isn't just about a few dropped papers. This is about your constant harassment and mistreatment towards me and others in this office." His face contorted with surprise, but he quickly regained his composure. "Don't be ridiculous, Abigail. You're blowing things out of proportion. Now, clean up this mess and get back to work." I stood my ground, refusing to be silenced any longer. "No, Mr. Thompson, I won't let you dismiss this. I have evidence of your behavior, and I'm not going to tolerate it any longer. This ends now." With determination in my voice, I turned to my colleagues. "Guys, I need your support. I've gathered surveillance footage documenting Mr. Thompson's harassment. It's time to bring this to It's time to bring this to light and hold him accountable." Sarah stepped forward, her voice unwavering. "Abigail, you can count on us. We stand with you, and we won't let this injustice continue." Michael and Emily nodded in agreement, their expressions filled with determination and support. The following days were a whirlwind of collecting evidence, documenting incidents, and preparing for what lay ahead. We met secretly, strategizing and analyzing the surveillance footage, highlighting the moments when Mr. Thompson's misconduct was captured. Finally, armed with undeniable proof, we filed a formal complaint with the company's Human Resources Department. The evidence we presented was irrefutable, leaving the ER team with no choice but to launch a thorough investigation into Mr. Thompson's behavior. During the investigation, other employees, previously silenced by fear or uncertainty, found the courage to speak up and share their own experiences of Mr. Thompson's harassment. It became clear that his toxic behavior had affected numerous individuals within the office. One morning, as I arrived at the office, I noticed an eerie tension in the air. Whispers circulated among my colleagues, their expressions a mix of concern and confusion. Emily approached me, her voice trembling as she relayed the shocking news. "Abigail, you won't believe what happened. Last night, someone broke into the office and vandalized it. They destroyed important files, tampered with equipment, and left a chilling message on the walls." My heart sank, a mix of anger and disbelief coursing through my veins. How could someone stoop so low, targeting the very place we had worked so hard to rebuild? Together, we walked through the aftermath of the despicable act, surveying the damage. Files were torn apart, computers lay in disarray, and the message scrawled on the wall sent shivers down our spines. "Silence won't save you." It was a chilling reminder that our fight against Mr. Thompson's harassment had provoked a dangerous response. The vandal sought to intimidate and silence us, to make us cower in fear. Sarah joined us, her voice laced with determination. We can't let this break us. We've come so far, and this act of intimidation won't stop us from seeking justice and creating a safe workplace. We need to report this immediately. With a newfound resolve, we reported the incident to the authorities and the company's higher management. The gravity of the situation was not lost on them, and they promised a thorough investigation to identify the perpetrator. Days turned into weeks, and the office slowly regained its sense of security. Increased security measures were put in place, and we received support from both the company and external resources to help us through this difficult time. During one of our team meetings, Michael voiced his frustration. Who could have done such a thing? It's clear that someone wanted to strike fear into our hearts, but we can't let them win. Emily chimed in, her voice filled with determination. Absolutely, Michael, we've been through so much already, and this incident only strengthens our resolve. We won't be silenced. We'll stand even stronger together. United in our determination, we vowed to continue our fight for a safe and respectful workplace. We refused to let fear dictate our actions or deter us from seeking justice. As the investigation unfolded, the truth slowly came to light. It was revealed that the vandalism was orchestrated by a disgruntled former employee who had harbored resentment towards our efforts to expose Mr. Thompson's misconduct. The evidence was strong, and the perpetrator was held accountable for their actions. While the incident was a dark and unsettling chapter in our journey, it served as a testament to the importance of our cause. It reminded us that speaking up against harassment and standing against injustice can sometimes come with a price. But it also highlighted the resilience and unwavering spirit of our team. In the aftermath of the vandalism incident, our resolve to create a safe and respectful workplace was stronger than ever. We refused to let fear consume us, and instead, we channeled our energy into seeking justice for the abuse we had endured. With the support of my colleagues, we embarked on a journey to hold Mr. Thompson accountable for his actions. Armed with the surveillance footage and testimonies from affected employees, we decided to take legal action against him. Emily, determined to see justice served, said, "Abigail, we have the evidence we need to make a strong case against Mr. Thompson. It's time to take this to court and ensure that he faces the consequences of his abusive behavior." Sarah nodded in agreement. "You're absolutely right, Emily. It's not just about seeking justice for ourselves, but also about setting a precedent and protecting others from enduring the same mistreatment." Together, we engaged a skilled lawyer who specialized in workplace harassment cases. The legal proceedings began, and we found ourselves in the courtroom, ready to present our case against Mr. Thompson. As I took the stand, I recounted the instances of harassment I had faced, the toll it had taken on my mental well-being, and the impact it had on our entire office community. The courtroom was filled with tension as the truth unraveled. Mr. Thompson, now facing the consequences of his actions, looked visibly uncomfortable. His arrogance had crumbled, and he was forced to confront the gravity of his abusive behavior. During the cross-examination, Mr. Thompson's lawyer attempted to discredit our claims, questioning our motives and the validity of the evidence. But we stood strong, supported by our legal team and the knowledge that we were fighting for a just cause. In a pivotal moment, Sarah, taking the stand as a witness, bravely shared her own experiences of Mr. Thompson's harassment. Her testimony added weight to our case, solidifying the evidence against him. After weeks of legal proceedings, the court reached a verdict. Mr. Thompson was found guilty of workplace harassment, and the consequences were severe. He was ordered to pay a $100,000 fine, reflecting the severity of his actions, and was dismissed from the company. The relief that washed over us was immeasurable. We had sought justice, and it had been served. Our fight against workplace harassment had not only brought about personal closure, but also set a precedent within our organization. As we celebrated this triumph, our office community began to heal. The toxic atmosphere that had plagued us for far too long started to dissipate, making way for a more supportive and respectful environment. Emily, reflecting on our journey, said, "We've come such a long way, Abigail. We stood up against the injustice, fought for our rights, and emerged victorious. Our collective strength and unity were the driving forces behind this positive change." Michael added, "Absolutely, Emily. It was a challenging and emotional journey, but it's a testament to what can be achieved when people come together and refuse to accept mistreatment." With Mr. Thompson's dismissal, the office underwent a transformation. New policies were implemented to prevent harassment, and training programs were introduced to promote a culture of respect and inclusivity. As the final chapter of my office saga comes to a close, I can't help but reflect on the incredible power of resilience and standing up for what's right. Our fight against workplace harassment ignited a change that rippled beyond our office walls, inspiring others to speak up and